Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to look about seeing if we can get this truck to fire up. Now, I had made a local friend at one of the local personal junkyards. And when we first moved here, we just moved here a few months ago, but when we first moved here, I saw this truck sitting in his lot out there for a couple months. And then one day it kind of just disappeared. And I was like, oh no, hopefully he didn't scrap it. Well, I stopped by, introduced myself, and asked what happened to it. He said, well, my son took it. He goes, it's actually in pretty good shape. My son was going to try to get it running and just use the truck. And he said something with the battery cable or something, couldn't even get the starter to turn over. Might be a bad starter on it. And so I said, he asked me, he goes, my son don't want it. Do you want it? He goes, I'm not. He said, I'll probably just scrap it. And I said, sure, I'll take it. I said, if it's in good shape, sure, I'll take it. And it doesn't look like much, honestly, but if you were to look underneath this truck, the metal still looks, I wouldn't say new, but newish. There's not any rust on the rocker panels. The bed is not in bad shape at all. The frame is in wonderful condition. And the truck, all in all, though ugly up top, is actually very nice on the bottom. But for today, I would like to know the condition of the engine and the drivetrain. So I'm going to try to see if I can get this thing to fire up today. And if I can, we're going to drive it around my yard a little bit to let me hear that transmission and to see if this thing is actually drivable and what's wrong with it. So let's look under the hood and I'll show you what I'm looking at. All right, so one of the reasons I bought this truck was the drivetrain. This engine is the 318 V8 from Dodge or Chrysler. And these engines I just love. Dad had a Dodge Ram with a 318 in it, and I just loved it there. And then my Dakota now, the one I drive, which one day I'll introduce you to, also has a 318 in it, and I love it. And I want to use this engine for one of my other projects. So knowing it's a good engine, I want to see if it'll fire for me. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but this thing actually, like I said, it's complete. I don't even know if it'll turn over. But up top, you have the hood liner up top, which is often not found in these trucks anymore. It's gone usually. And the fact that this still has its hood liner is amazing. I'm really glad that it still has that. And then the truck is relatively complete. But let me show you what he was trying to do to get this thing started. Well, the guy was putting some stuff together. Here's some random wires. See, I think this is the original wire. That goes to the box. I have no idea how this all was connected. So this is where he hooked up the starter. And so fortunately, the ground cable still is in usable condition. And this is what he put on. He took it off another truck, and he used a cable clamp here to connect the two. And that's really odd. I'm surprised it didn't cause a lot of smoke and problems. So what I'm going to do, actually, is we're going to see if this engine will turn over, and see if it's locked up or not. And if it's not locked up, then I'll check all the fluids, and I will get a battery and try to see if I can get a wire hooked up here correctly, and see if I can get this thing to fire. I know one thing that's always bothered me a little bit is the switch to metric from everything. One thing I love about working on old stuff is it's SAE, and I would prefer that. Okay, so I'm on the crankshaft now, and it's turned actually not too bad at all, unless it's stalled there. I feel compression, and yeah, they can tell it's been a long time since it's turned, but it's turned over just fine. Stuff's falling off of it. Yeah. Uh-oh. Careful. Not a lot of room up there. All right, we've pretty much made an entire rotation. And, all right. I answered that question. Awesome. Crankshaft turns over great. Now, I've already checked the fluids in this before. I'll check them again just because. So odd. So odd, some of the stuff that people do. Oil looks a little low. I'm sure it's because it's on a hill, but I have some cheap oil I can throw in it. Real quick. And let me see over here. Transmission fluid looks fine. We're trying to run it. Radiator's dry, but no reason to put antifreeze or water in it if it won't start. So let me go get some oil real quick and I'll throw it in there. This engine has an oil fill on both sides, so I will throw it in and just add a quart or so just to make sure we're topped off, and then go over there. In fact, I think what they want to do is I'm going to go get my truck, which ironically this is a 93 Dakota and my truck is a 93 Dakota V8, and I'm going to bring it over so I can see the wiring on it, see the wiring on this, and see where this one's all messed up. One of the benefits of owning multiple of the same vehicle, I guess. So let me go do that. Aren't they cute? All right, so basically what I'm seeing, this here is supposed to be attached to the battery. Looks like he had squeezed up in there. This is supposed to go to the battery, and this little brown wire here is supposed to go down to the starter, and as well as this wire here. It looks like what I'm going to have to do is I have some extra wire in my barn. I think what I'm going to have to do is, boy, I don't know. He has got this thing all cut up and rigged up, and I don't even know what all that he did. So let me go find some wire. No, I don't think I came up that. And see if I can find a way to get all this hooked up, and then I'll bring you back. And when I get all this hooked up, we'll see if we can get this thing to fire up. All righty. Well, as I was figuring out the best course of action, I remembered I have another Dodge Dakota like the two you saw here on the property. That is a future project truck that I found, and that it's only a year newer, and so everything on it is able to be transferred on this one, and voila, I have a new positive battery terminal. And fortunately, because of Dodge, everything should plug straight into this one and work just fine. So I'm going to disconnect the old wiring system and then hook up this one, and we should be good to go to try this thing. All right, a couple weeks ago, this battery still had plenty of juice in it. Let's hope it still does. There you go. Well, the good news is I don't see any sparks or smoke or anything, so must have done something right. Let's see if it'll turn over. I got a light. Hey. All right, so the good news is it turns over. I think what happened was the guy was trying to start it in park, and it won't start in park. It won't turn over or anything. As soon as I put it in neutral, it's spun over. However, I don't hear a fuel pump at all running. I think that's going to be my issue, is I think it had a bad fuel pump, or if it didn't, it does now. So I'm going to open up that air cleaner, and I'm going to put some gas down it, some 2-cycle gas, and see if I can get the fire. It's already used, man. Oh yeah, that looks clean. Yeah, that's a new air filter someone bought. I got some 2-cycle fuel here. Let's see if it's enough to get this thing to pop off. All right, let's see. Okay. Don't have a lot of battery juice left, so. Well, that was, I heard it pop, so that's a good sign. Man, I just love these Gulus. Not a sponsor or nothing. Just saw it tested and bought one, and it was the best thing ever. I've used it for more mowers and more trucks and cars and anything else. Tell you what, these V8s are thirsty engines. I'm gonna let some sit up here, and then we'll start it and see what happens. Okay. I think this is a great opportunity for a second pair of hands. So I'm gonna go get my boy and have him start it, and while I feed it. Go ahead. Oh! We got fire. We got the fire, and can't drive it because it's not going to stay running long enough. So I think my next goal is to try to remove the bed, and then once I get the bed removed, then I will make sure you're getting voltage back there, and then we'll try to start it another day. Okay, so it's been a couple days, and I am ready to spend a little bit more time trying to get this thing to fire up and run. And I was going to work in my garage today, but tomorrow on for a few days, they're calling for rain, and that'll be a great time to do garage stuff. But for today, it's beautiful, and it feels great, so we're going to be outside. And so what we're going to do today is we have to pull this truck out a little bit, and I built something a bit special for projects such as this one. So let's pull the truck out and pull out my my thing that I built. A gantry crane. I felt like I should build this because I have a few projects that I need to use a crane on, and I don't trust the joists in my barn at all. It's a very old barn. So I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity to take some spare wood that I have around the property and build it. And everything was just left over and not being used. It's not as strong as some other gantry cranes because it only has 2x6s up top instead of 2x8s, but it should be plenty strong enough for what we're doing today, which is basically lifting the bed up off the rear end of the truck. And then from there, we will look at that fuel pump. So I have the bed all unbolted, lights removed. I wasn't going to show you all that. You've all seen me do that before. But I have all that done, and this is a little different setup than what you have seen before. What you see in the front there is my gantry crane hooked to the front end of the bed, and in the back I have an engine hoist hooked to the back of the bed. The goal is going to be to raise the bed as level as possible up above to where we can roll the truck out from underneath it, and that way we can get to the fuel pump. That went amazing. When I was building my other Dakota, I removed the bed with the engine hoist and a front loader on my tractor. But this was extremely effective. I'm going to keep this in mind in the future. I think I didn't dent the bed. Things came off relatively easily. Worked out really well. So now I'm going to start working on that fuel pump. Okay, so here's the fuel pump. It's pretty rotten. I don't want to cause too much shadows, but you look here, it's more mud dauber nest. Actually, there's a whole bunch of stink bugs in there. Ugh, get out of here. It stinks. Okay, so I'm going to turn on the key, and I'm going to actually listen to this fuel pump now, right here, to see if I'm actually getting the fuel pump to even activate. I do not believe it works at all. Go ahead. Did you do it?
Yeah.
Turn it off. Go back.
Okay.
Go do it again.
I did.
Okay. Literally nothing. I'm going to go get my meter, and we're going to see if we're getting power back here. Okay, so I have a couple different tools here. This one checks for power. This one checks for power. Of course, this has a screen, tells you, it could give you lots of information about it, actually. And this is just cheap. You get these real cheap at Walmart or Amazon or whatever. But I'm just going to check to see if I'm getting power back to the fuel pump. When I was doing this the other day, I did hear the relay click, so I don't think this is going to be the issue. I think it's going to be a bad fuel pump. It'd be crazy if they literally parked the truck for that reason. Go ahead and turn the key on, bud. I got a light, not a lot of light. So second one in. Is it still on?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, second one in has power. So let me check how much power has come back here to make sure I have sufficient power. I do 20 volts DC because it should be getting about 12 volts from the battery. Put that there. Let's see if that's good enough. Okay, so it's just the second one here. 7 volts. I'm getting 7.7 volts here. Oh, I bet my battery's low. So, all right, let me clean this up real quick, and I'm pulling the fuel pump out. Somehow, some way, we got the ring off with a pair of an oil filter or refrigerant. Actually, not the first time I've done that. These things are actually really handy, cheap, and they're really handy. So we're going to pull this fuel pump out of here and see what's underneath it. All right, let's look. We'll start pulling this fuel pump. See what's underneath it. We cleaned up around here, got all the loose debris. Hopefully keep the stuff out of the tank. Yeah, that looks pretty bad. Wow, is that factory? That looks so weird. I'm not liking that. Let me get that away from the tank. All right, look down in here. worse. I've seen better. Oh boy. But it looks like we do have debris down in the tank. I'm going to have to remove it from its place, drop it off, which shouldn't be too big a deal. It's practically empty. I'm going to go ahead and empty this out. I'm going to hose it out, let it dry for the rest of the day, and then we'll have to come back at it another day, and we'll have to rehook the fuel tank back up, and then try to get the thing to start another day. Okay, so it's been a couple days. The rest of that day, I took out the tank and washed it out and got all the rust out of it. There was a ton of rust from that fuel pump flaking off in there. But we washed it out real well, me and my son. Got it all cleaned out. And I have this extra fuel pump that I had bought a few years ago for my other Dakota, because the fuel gauge didn't work and the fuel pumps were cheap enough. Like, well, I'll just replace the pump, get the fuel gauge to work. But all it needed was adjustments on the lever inside on the old pump. So I put the old pump back in and kept the new pump as a spare, and the spare is going to work well for us today. So all we're doing today, I've already got it all installed and hooked up. As you can tell, not everything's hooked up, but there is some fuel in the tank and the battery is hooked up. So right now, all we're going to do is we're going to listen to see if this fuel pump kicks on and see if there's another problem outside of the fuel pump. All right. I don't know if you're hearing it, but that's that fuel pump kicking on. The hum, that's that fuel pump kicking on. We now have fuel pressure. Awesome. I don't know if the filter's clogged. I have no clue. But we're going to go ahead. I'm going to check the fluids in it, and then we're going to try to see if this thing will start. She runs! Kind of erratic, but she runs. I'm pretty happy with that, actually. I don't really want to run it much longer without putting at least some water in the coolant system so it has something to cool it down. I don't want to overheat it. It won't take long. I'm hoping that giving those rings time to seat will get rid of the smoke and all that. Fuel pump works great now. Starts and runs. So I'm going to go get water, put water in it. And then I'm going to check the oil, make sure we don't have any massive oil leaks. And then we're going to see if I can get this thing to drive a little bit. Might not be as low as I thought. Let me start it up and let it take that and see how much more I can put in it. The longer it idles, the better it runs. I want to just let it idle, so that way it can seat those rings and stuff like that before I rev it or anything. The good news is the temperature gauge works, so I get to watch it now. All right, let me show you what I'm looking at here. Oil pressure looks a little low, but still in the normal. Of course, no gas. I was kind of surprised it doesn't work, but it might be the gauge. Alternator works fine. It is up well where it needs to be, and that temperature's rising, so it looks like it's going to work fine. My tach does not work, but sometimes with these old trucks, all you got to do is ta-da! Fixed it. Cheapest fix to date. And then I don't know if it's speedometer. It actually sounds really nice. It's smoothed right out, no more smoke. It's just that engine. I don't hear a lifter tick. All I hear are the fuel injectors firing. That is a good running truck. I put the fuel nozzle back on only because I don't want that fuel just splashing out of the tank. I won't be able to drive it far. It doesn't have a heat shield between the exhaust and the tank, and there's no and the exhaust has been cut. So I don't know if you can hear it. It sounds amazing, actually. Okay, let's try it. Well, I would consider that a successful test drive. Didn't take it out on the road, but the brakes aren't the best, but they do work. I think I figured out why they parked it and gave up on it. It did have a fuel issue, but that was pretty easily resolved as long as I figured out what to do. However, one thing I noticed with it is that when it would idle and it was cold, the engine would have plenty of oil pressure. But after it warmed up and when I started driving it, anything at idle and the oil light would come on. And the engine sounds amazing. However, with that low of oil pressure, I could see why they decide just to park it. Because in order to replace an oil pump, you got to take out the whole engine. So that gives me a lot of good thoughts about what I'm going to do with it. And I'm excited about the future possibility of being able to drive it and stuff. Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I'm excited that it runs, and I'm looking forward to what I'm going to do with it now that I know that it runs. Not sure exactly what I'm feeling about the oil pressure problem. I'm probably going to drain the oil because I don't know how good it is and put good fresh 15W40 in it. Nice, good, thick diesel oil in it to see if that raises the oil pressure. Even if it does, I'm probably going to end up rebuilding the motor on this thing anyway, but I'm not sure yet. Perhaps it was just a fluke. Perhaps it was just a little bit low and I just didn't see it, but I don't think that was what it was. So I checked it and put oil in it and made sure. And I just think it's just, you have an engine, you have a truck with a truck with 200 and some thousand miles on it, which this one has. And that's the risk you take. You buy a truck that doesn't run, you don't know what's wrong with it. You can either strike gold or you don't strike gold. But when I bought this truck, I really bought it for the body, for the bed, for the cab, for the fenders, for things like that, in hopes that I can use those in other projects. But a good running engine, and the fact that I felt the transmission working, and it works, seems like pretty decently. It's I think the 46 RH on this compared to the 42 RH on my little other Dakota back there. And that's going to be a project for a future time, but I really wanted a 46 RH for that truck. And now it looks like I have one to put in it. I'm excited about that. So thanks for joining me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.